nice to be here. I had a very vague title because I didn't really know what I'm going to talk about, but I imagined it would be something from inside my head. So I will talk about how I see design can be used to bring maximum amount of value, but in a more fun way than I usually do, to actually talking about design as well. Just quick back, so 20 years, actually it's 21 soon, but I've been working for many companies from all over the world, and I'll keep doing it for a while longer. Also, like you said, I had a problem to fit in, so I decided to create my own luck in the world, basically, and always had companies that I worked for or founded or co-founded. That also means that I've always been working in teams, so I really enjoy that. So sometimes I would probably say we, or sometimes me, and who knows anymore. If you work in a team that has an open format, then it doesn't matter. But the ideas are relevant, I hope. So I decided to talk about product evolution and backcasting. And hopefully this will bring you some tools if you work in R&D, or if you are working with business, or if you're working with sustainability, or it's really good tools, and I hope I can give them to you. So evolution. We used to be apes, and then we could stand, and So family, let's keep it close. What's your closest DNA? It's the family. So I'm going to start talking about what you expect from a designer, more of the visual. So this is what when we worked at Urbaneers or created Urbaneers, talk about as a brand DNA. And here you can see that they are all from the same family, from the same DNA. They're not like going all different directions. They all they're connected by shapes, materials, and by actually deeper philosophies we had developing this product, creating these brands. And another way with evolution is that sometimes you can create new species. So this is another example where Urbaneers, you can see they're headphones, but they still have that little difference that could make them look, someone you feel like a friendly face down the street from. And this was the other one. This was like, let's go like alien. Let's go far out. Let's see if we take, fashion and we take headphones and we just smash them together. And this is what we got. But you can still see, because they share philosophies, they share material, they share ideas, that they are still a family. And so this is what I'm going to talk most about. It's evolution, innovation. They should rhyme. They almost rhyme, but I don't know. Evolution, innovation. It doesn't really. Okay, but to me, they have a lot in common. And it comes from this observation, or my deepest determination that this is true. You have to be part of creating the future, or you will be part of history really, really fast, because everything is moving very fast. This is more relevant than ever before. When you used to talk about like 10-year cycles, now it's 3 years. And 3 years is nothing when you work in R&D or you work in strategy. This is my way to illustrate. If you just sit down and relax and have your wine and your cigar, there's going to be someone just running after you and just telling you, you're obsolete, you're dead, you are not flexible enough to survive. So how do you go against that, to be extinct, to be irrelevant? You have to evolve, right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it's going to be a lot of focus on headphones due to sound industries. Obviously, we did a lot of headphones for many brands and speakers, but main focus is going to be headphones, because we did like 50 headphones or something in 10 years. And so this is a Cloud, which is one of our brands that we had in 2009. And this is this is about how functionality and ideas transcend. So we did an in-ear. We had to have an in-ear. We added colors, and we added a price point, and it was relevant to the cool kids, we hoped, and it was. But then we are discussing, like, okay, but how do you wear a in-ear headphone. You see these kids who has them on top of their ears, or you can't talk, so you like have to plug them out, and then you lose them, and then you smash them into the ground. Not very durable. I guess how many here have had their headphones? You have to take them out and drop them, and they smash to the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you see this is a problem, right? So we started to have an argument inside the company, which was coolest to have. This doesn't even exist anymore, but there used to be versions where you have the short leash and the long leash. You can have it around your neck. And the other classic one is the Y-shaped. So that was the argument. So here you have friction. When you have friction, what can you get? You can get innovation. So we decided that none of these solutions were better than the other, even though that the asymmetrical one looked uncooler. So we decided that we should have a Lego click on the back of the neck instead. So when you're not listening, you click it around your neck, you wear it, you don't drop it. And when you need it, you plop it out, put it in your ear, and you can talk instantly. And you have the right and left side correct. So that was Bagis, which was introduced in 2010. It was a real fun treat finding out what year this actually happened. Obviously, with Urban Ears, we were also the first to introduce an inline microphone to real headphones, not to the small ones, under 100 euros. So we also had other things we did. But looking forward then, you know, the same R&D that we put into that project could be used for 2012, where it was actually Kransen, was an update in terms of ergonomics. We found this, how the headphone could stay in the ear more comfortable way and don't fall out as easily, depending on different, you know, how air shapes are. But, you know, we ended up with Kransen that was improved. We also added, is there like a laser on this? Do I dare to? No, of course not. Anyway. Lasso plug, because this also was a problem. Many people just pulled these small, fragile headphones out of their bags, and they get, you know, you rip them apart, basically. So this was a way to organize it in your bags without ripping them. Patent, yes. Then we have the 2013, Marshall was doing in here. Of course, we could reuse, but we also choose to like, could we get the audio quality better? So we invested a lot in the audio quality. Again, updated some of the features. We introduced EQ, so you could choose between like 2 different levels of bass versus treble. Depend on your tastes. And actually, we are all having a very different like profile on what we hear the best and the least. And we all have some damage to our ears if we're 40 at least. In 2014, it was all connected into Molami, where we actually improved the ergonomics even further with this like semi-square. And this is my way to explain that we keep evolving over brands, but the same kind of product, just improving every step of the way. We just didn't want to stop moving. And this is something I always said to my team, all the time, and I learned that when I was an athlete, and also my trainer said, when we were doing really long running, really far, he said, you can walk, you can crawl, but you can never ever stop. So that's the philosophy. We can crawl, we can walk, but you have to move forward. Now we're going to talk about the survival of the most flexible. By the way, I think it's, if you have questions, I would be very fine if you would just like raise your hands. That's fine with me, just so you know. And so this is a DJ headphone. So of course we wanted to make it really durable because these DJs are traveling, they are maybe spilling drinks, they need to be robust. They're a tool for these people, and it's a huge business, so they have to rely on their tools, right? So we wanted to make the most durable DJ headphone in the world. We also introduced another patent which is called the Turntable, which was a problem because you always need an adapter, but we just changed the cable side, and then you had like you were ready to go. You never were in a situation where you forgot this adapter. And this is called Sinken. This is from a collaboration with Audio Dance Festival and when we developed this, so this is when we did this is the first time we did a plastic headband. So you have to say, like, plastic headband, this is a new thing. We haven't done that before. We worked with, I think, a new manufacturer, and they said, this plastic is amazing, you can do anything. And we're like, can we really design it like that, like engineer it like that? And they was like, yeah, it's no problem. So we did, and then we get the first P1 or S1 or S2 or whatever, from the tooling anyway, so it's probably T2, and crack. Just split open, and we were like, oh, damn it, we're shipping. Oh, my God. But this was the best for my team. This was like a failure in quality. You couldn't handle that. So we ended up with delayed. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but I guess, and again, it was a crisis that ended up in innovation. So in the end, we got this, but I would not recommend you do this to this headphone. So don't do that at home. But that sprang our imagination, like, okay, we need to do an unbreakable headband. It needs to be unbreakable. It also had other gains in terms of ergonomics because it can shape to your head, etc. So we started to don't look at that something like a metal that's a two-dimensional or like just bent in one dimension. We started to look at something that is moving, like an arm or a muscle. And suddenly we came up with this, what we call a 3D dimensional hinge, where the whole headband and the whole headphone just adapts to the size of your head. But it also makes it almost unbreakable because it just moves. So we're not working against, the forces, we just work with it. And here you can see it because we also made a washable headband that's our fault. We have started to make textile headbands that were white, that became dirty, not good, bad, but it worked from a business perspective. And so we made them washable, first in the world as well. I think we have patents on that as well, and on the headband. So, and that one, of course, trickled down into all our headphones. So this is the Urban Ears Bluetooth Marshall headphone from 2015. Here we also introduced 40-hour playtime. We're the first Bluetooth headphone to have that. A year later, Beats did the same thing, but they marketed it. So, but anyway, now you can do this at home. I will, pay you back if it doesn't work. So that's crisis. That's good. Friction, crisis. So now I'm going to talk. I had to have something that was not Urban Ears as well, or not Marshall, or not headphones. So this is like the base for almost all innovation in some kind. And I truly believe this is important for all teams. It has to do with diversity, cross-pollination. You have to broaden your field. If you're in headphone, you shouldn't look for inspiration in headphones. You should look for inspiration in. You could look for like the basic. Okay, what's the best solution in class? But innovation, you should look for other areas. So the first example is a story in itself. But this was a project we did in my first company, Synthia Studio. In 2007, it was released same time as the iPhone. Great timing for a clam phone. But what we did was that we did an alarm clock radio because this was something that we were more and more using. I don't know if you remember 2007, but that was something like, oh, are you working it? You're using it as an alarm clock. You're ahead. Now everyone is doing it. So we did the best alarm clock radio and also a phone at the time. And then it was, if not the iPhone would have come, it would have been the best music phone as well, I think. That's my opinion. But anyway, we were also earlier doing a lot of watches for Gantt. So this watch is actually the only thing I can say that this is Eric's watch. I will not claim this design at all. It was his done. But we, as a team, had worked on watches. We worked on this, and we got this assignment to do like a smart watch. So this is before smartwatches or wearables. I don't know if that was even, no one was talking about wearables. iPhone was just, starting to have a major impact. But we did this mute watch that had sensors, light sensors. You could, do this and it would lit up, and you had motion sensor, touch screen, light sensors. It was like really a smart hardware for a wearable. We didn't put the software in there. That was the plan, of course, but then this was a young startup, and due to funding, they were underfunded. And it turned out to be like a cool design watch instead. But this I'm very proud of. Have you read it already? The coolest guy at Apple. To me, that's still like a little bit engineer. Steve Wozniak, he thought it was a great product. For me, it's one of the big moments. it was also sold in these design areas instead, so it didn't become a smartwatch. It became like a design icon in Muma, Colette, all those. But I'm used to that now. Invasive species. Okay, so how are we on time?
I'll check.
I don't have time here.
We got 10 minutes.
Yes, it's great. I have loads of time. Okay, I was a little bit worried that would be going over time, but we'll be fine. Invasive species. Okay, so usually in companies we see competition, we see other companies as something that, well, let's just say, not invented here. Have you heard about that? Yes, okay. At Sound Industries and in our team, we at Nora, we had that in our philosophy that we would collaborate and we would be open as much as possible instead. Because we very fast saw that we would gain business from this, and we also gain inspiration. It was fun for everyone. So this is another example of a very fruitful collaboration with again, Sound Industries and Nokia. And I was at the time they existed. This is before Microsoft stepped in. So I was in their beautiful building, and we were talking about roadmaps for Cloud. That was a lower tier brand we had. And they showed me this like Bluetooth headset that looked like something out of Star Trek. And it's really beautifully designed. It's just you can't wear it. It's like it's so unergonomic. And they were like, we had our best designers work for years on this. Can you fix it? And I was like, yes, actually, I already fixed it. Because I was working on something else, actually. But I realized that that would fix that problem. And that was this other product that was called the Hoop. And that was innovative in its own way, because you got this thing that connects to the ear. We were really early with that as well. Not our patent, but we bought the patent. It's licensed to the patent. But now you could use the cable to adjust the size. You didn't have to, fumble around with different size silicone stuff. And it was also our first earphone, that kind of, it was an acoustic platform I wanted for the future as well. So reflective cable was also quite new at the time. We were not first, but we were really early to introduce it. And that ended up being this product called Stadio. And here there are 2 patents on the fitting, but again, we weren't doing something rigid that would adapt to, our heads are very different in sizes, and also the positioning of the ears. Even if you have a small head, you can have ears placed here or here. It's incredible how different the ears are placed. And also the ears, how it's built are very different. And you have these 3 or 4 places where you want to use to, grip or to fixate the headphones. So anyway, ended up with this, and here you can see it better, I guess. And the whole idea here was to get a lot of battery time in a small headphone. So that we did. Shit happens, right? But it was at least, I think, 6 hours. And at the time, it was all right. This was like a product that became totally delayed. It's put in the bottom of the drawers, not at all prioritized. But in 2007, at least, the product is available. And it's better battery time than true wireless headphones. So if you're in sports, it's still a nice Bluetooth headset. And yeah, okay. So that was when you have other companies come in to your company and you exchange ideas. And that's something that, for example, in Sweden, I don't know, is that popular here now? Because in the US, that's happening all the time. I've been visiting almost all the R&D departments in Amazon and Google and all these companies, because it's things are moving so fast. It's no point being too secretive anymore. You just have to exchange ideas and see if you can do something cool together, and then you move fast on it. If you move too slow, you're out. And unfortunately, we lost a lot of opportunities at Sound Industries because we started to become slow as we grew. But okay, again, we're here in evolution time, right? So heritage. Okay, so sometimes your grandparents have a few words of wisdom. Maybe when you get kids, your parents weren't so stupid because you can see the system again. Oh, yeah, obviously. So again, you should also be interested in heritage. Innovation can be rediscovering something that was already working really well, but for some reason they were taken away. Maybe not the right reasons. And here we go back again to, I would say, well, these two are in the way the most like important product for, I mean, the speaker that we launched in 2012, which was a crazy project. We had to learn how to build a speaker, sourced all the parts ourselves in the beginning. That's definitely the big success for sound industries today. And the phone is definitely what's going to be the benchmark for the future of sound industry. I'm not there anymore, so I don't know what they're doing, but I'm just saying. And the reason is because the speaker was a huge success. I mean, not the first, but the second generation when we added Bluetooth. And this is also how we worked all the time. We just didn't want to add like 3 new things. We wanted to add 1, but we wanted to repeatedly release new products. That's why it's over 50 products. And the other one was, why do we do a smartphone? Like, why would some brand that used to do guitar amps and no one is buying electric guitars anymore do a smartphone? And the answer is obviously that we wanted to get hold of all the technology that were in the smartphones. The low-powered, small sensors, good batteries, all that stuff. That's what turned into a 40-hour battery, Bluetooth headphone in the end, and etc. So that took us into being connected and being in the, I would say, I used to say we would be in the future. When I started talking about Wi-Fi speakers, people were like, but how many Wi-Fi speakers sell? And I said, none, because they don't exist. But then there has no future. But yes, because it's logical. And obviously there's still like some child disease in this technology, but it's obviously going to win because it has all these, qualities that wins over Bluetooth. But again, Bluetooth is evolving as well, so Bluetooth is becoming interested again. But the story behind this is actually, we did the knobs. When we did the Marshall speaker, we put, instead of trying to be smart about the sound and putting all these stupid algorithms that had no idea who you were or where it was in your apartment, which is very important for the sound from a speaker, by the way, we just put bass, treble, and volume on there. Boom, you could just adjust it yourself at your own leisure. And you would get the sound to, if you listen to hip-hop or if you listen to radio, you want to adjust the bass and the treble bass. Easy. So this is like the basic of atomization. If you have a really smart human and you want to compete with a really stupid algorithm, be careful, okay? So that was the genius, and I have to go back because I'm still talking about that one. But then we have this new things you can do when you're connected to the cloud all the time. So we wanted to give the people an experience where you never had to pick up your phone. So how are we on time? It's just 3 minutes. Yeah, okay. So I didn't want people to wake up in the morning and you look at your phone and you're like, oh no, and you see 100 emails. I was one of those person who had like every morning like 100 emails. Oh, stressed, you didn't have a nice morning, and I wanted to listen to music or to the news or whatever. It's impossible. You just have this filter. You have to plow through reality before you've even woken up, before your first coffee. So we did presets together with Spotify, and that means that you can walk up there, and obviously you usually just listen to the same thing in the morning. So you just push the button, which is play, and it will start playing what you were playing last time. So it could be a podcast, could be radio, obviously playlists. Or we had like a few presets. I would say that we have 7. That's actually too many. You can't remember 7. But again, you have to try to learn, trial and error. And that's the thing, right? Theory, plan, practice, analyze. What the hell went good? What went wrong? Improve. Boom. Over again. So this is the first version. And actually, there is a Marshall version after this, so it's actually there are a second version of this system. But it worked really well. We also had this problem with multi-room. So who are in charge? That was the first question. What's the hierarchy? You know, when you have the TV, you call the remote control, it's the power, makten. It's the best name for it, actually. But now when everything is everywhere and you have like a teenager who wants to listen to death metal, and you have grandma, and anyway, we saw chaos. So how do we solve this? And it was very easy. The scenario where you would actually have a lot of multi-room systems in one home is very rare. I mean, firstly, you have to have a huge home where you have loads and loads of people, and you have to afford these quite expensive speakers. So we kind of reduced it to singular multi. So you can physically walk through your apartment instead of any motion sensors or heat sensors, and then there's a dog, and all these things. You just go there, you push like on, and the multi, and then you go to the next room. I want to listen here too. I just push that button, and then it starts playing in all the rooms. And if you want to shut it off, if you're the grandma or the mother or the father, you're the closest one has the power. Easy, right? Never been done before this, but this has been done now by others as well. But it's how you solve a complex problem with simplicity. Yes. Okay. Any questions? Because we have time. Okay, I'm moving now. Backcasting. This is the end. This is the end. Okay, so I was telling you I'm going to give you tools, right? So evolution, this is how I built this up to this tool called backcasting. So you could imagine this was all like a coincidence that we came up with all these, what we call unique selling points or patents or, it was not a coincidence. It was a method I very lately learned what it was called, backcasting, and it works like this. You're here, so this is 2008 or 7, whatever when we started, depends a little bit when you count, and you're going to release a lot of models, I guess, if you're successful, and you're going to go into the future. Like, that's a little bit further. You have to have okay, we have a vision. We're going to be the most sustainable headphone in the world. This is just an example. And then you have the far future. It's even further in positive environmental impact. So sustainable, positive environmental impact. Oh, how are we going to get there? It's really hard from where we are 2008, or actually for some companies also right now, to get there. The trick is you take many small leaps instead of taking one huge leap. So you backcast. So forecasting, you forecast, and here you backcast. So this is how we did it. We said, for example, we would have the best sports headphone during sports. What do we need? Oh, we need to have wireless, it needs to have waterproof, it needs to have all these things, very ergonomic, can't fall off, blah, blah, blah. So we started just to go backwards instead. And then you could see, we actually had this. So this is true, but not from 2008. In 2008, we were just surviving, I guess, and 2009. But exchangeable parts, making more durable, longer lifetime. At some point, we did life cycle analysis, thank you, through Anders connections as well. And 40-hour battery time, of course, increases the longevity of the product. And, we're not here. I'm not there. Sound Industries is not here. Maybe they are, but not that we know of. And they're not here at least. So this is backcasting. Have you seen this before? It's becoming more and more popular. Okay, so you remember this. But it's more complex, and this is the fun part. It doesn't look like a liner thing, right? This is how it looks. It's actually so they all cross-pollinate each other. Because I was talking about evolution, cross-pollination. They were cross-pollination, so they were always like dead ends, but they could still have huge impact on the future of the company and the future business models because we got data from the market, for example. But more importantly, as a strategist, I would strongly recommend you avoid where you know it's a dead end. Sometimes this is a short time, win, and then it maybe not be so short time. Usually you think it's simpler than it is, and you think you're going to earn more money fast because it's such a good idea than it really is. But if you do that, you wasted all that knowledge, all that experience on something that just died, and maybe you earned a lot of money, but you could potentially tweak it so you could put it on the line, and then it would potentially spread out and just continue into your giving value to 10 next projects, etc. And okay, so now okay. Last thing. So a good example here is how we worked instead. Konrad is going to talk tomorrow, by the way, so you have to listen to him as well. We said we knew that we didn't know the answer. We had a philosophy of what we wanted to achieve, that was to make a great user experience, where price is also important, of course, of the product. So, for example, the Hanwell, the Marshall Hanwell, the first Marshall speaker, not a huge economic success. Actually, we only did 10,000 because they were too expensive. And it was so expensive in the end, we said, fuck it, let's put everything we can in there. And we just went nuts because we know we weren't going to make any money on it. Then we started investing in the next product. That's the biggest success for the company, it's the Marshall Stanmore. So we wanted to see the market reaction, but we didn't count on the first time you go out of your comfort zone that it would be the hugest hit. We thought it would be the next one, when we learned from the market, when we saw what was working and not working. So we weren't that genius. But the genius was that we didn't give up. We just kept going, and we had it planned. Like, we had this beautiful backcasting. We're going here. So it doesn't really matter if this one, at least you have hopefully you have some success in the company that are giving money, directly. You could work a little bit long term. And sometimes it worked really fast as well. I mean, we did have a lot of these successes as well. That was really fast. And then you can just start fill it up. So now you're here instead, and Zound Industry is a 2 billion SEK company. At least, I would say. I heard it went up now again, since the Marshall agreement has been extended. And you can just continue to fill up, and then you can have 2 billion SEK company. Easy. So, again, be part of creating the future or be part of history. I want to be both, actually. I want to create the future and also be history. But, okay, so you're not only as good as your latest project, right? So this is my latest project, together with Konrad, who's also I would almost say founder, but we were co-founders of Zound Industries. Electric boats. My aim now is to make an imprint in the spiritual world. And there you go. And thank you for listening to me. And this is like people who have been really important for me, so I want to thank these guys as well. And that's it. That's it. Thank you.
I don't know where to start, Marcus. 2 billion Swedish crowns.
Yeah, that's a very bad evaluation, I think. Low.
But what, I mean...
We actually are, that's what they expect that we would have with their omsatt.
Yeah, turnover,
approximately this year. So.
But, I mean, you talk a lot about innovation, team, and so on. But there is, I mean, how do you pick that team? How can you find the right people? How do you make that, SWAT team of brains?
Okay, but that's quite easy, actually. You see who are willing to go the narrow path, basically. You don't give them the beautiful, nicest office and give them the highest salary, and you lure them in by that. You lure them in by saying it's going to be really hard, but we're going to listen to what you say, because you are an important piece. You have to be willing to go the extra mile. Are you smart enough? You have to give them really tough things to work with, and then you will get the right people in the team. But again, you have to. This is something that you learned as. I had to invent everything as I went along, but as a manager, you have to follow up. So, employing people, following up is super, super important, and do it. And now I have kind of a system for it, but I mean, just to keep me following up.
Mm. Do we have any questions in the audience?
But
no?
Diversity is so important. I mean, that's kind of the key here.
Yeah.
You have to find one that's really good at, because then the strengths of someone become stronger. But also, people who are really good at something usually are really weak at something. So you have to balance that up. And if you find the right culture where everyone feels very open, they can say anything, then you get this where weakness can actually be strength, because they have a different path in their brains or something that can be really interesting.
But did you find these guys, or did they come to you?
Both. I mean, it's really some of these people. A lot of the people I worked with, we were in the same class in Konstfack. So, but others, we just kept looking, and you kind of. It's a small world. I mean, definitely a world. I'm not only talking about Sweden or Stockholm. The world is very small. So the word spreads quite fast, because you work with other people and say other people, and you say, I'm looking for a mechanical engineer, that's creative engineer, I'm a really good engineer. That's the hardest thing to find, by the way.
A creative engineer.
Yeah, like an engineer who actually solves engineering problems and can talk at the same time. Like acoustics, okay, they're worse. But so here you have to vet them out, but they kind of come to you, they seek you. And I think it's about backcasting. They're actually one of the first, we call them creative engineers. That's their title. They're not just mechanical engineers, they're creative engineers because they're part of the design team. The product is the sum of what we're doing here. So, and he said that my strategy to get to this point where I got to Sound Industries was to say no to everything that wasn't that. And I think that's kind of, again, backcasting. He had a vision of where he wanted to be, in what kind of environment, where he could make impact. And then he just said, turn down all the other things. So he wasn't thinking short term, he was thinking long term, and it paid off. And yeah. So it works for everything. It's amazing.
It's very nice to have you here, Marcus. And I think it's time for lunch. And then it's you, Fredrik. Yeah? At 1? Okay, give Marcus another round of applause. I think it was fantastic.
Thank you.